Today we are looking at asset management inside D365 Finance and Operation. Recently, Dynaway also released an EAM solution for Business Central, and that is not the one we are focused on today. So let's do the 10-minute introduction to asset management for those of you who have never been introduced to this brilliant module before. So what is asset management? Well, asset management will allow you inside D365 to efficiently manage and carry out all tasks related to managing and servicing all types of physical assets. We want to do that as a company, or you want to do that, I would assume, so you can reduce your maintenance costs, so you can extend your asset life, you can improve your availability and performance, and you want to have some help finding the right balance between corrective and preventive maintenance. So this is when people ask me what is asset management, where I've tried to put it all on one screen. When Microsoft acquired Dynaway EAM, then we can now support the full big picture of asset management inside D365 Finance and Operation. Since the very beginning, we had the fixed asset module where you could acquire fixed assets, you could capitalize them, depreciate them, and you could retire them. But now with asset management, you can also manage and maintain your assets. For those of you who are familiar with Dynaway EAM, it is exactly the same functionality that is now available inside Asset Management D365. Microsoft did not acquire the service solution we have put on top of it. It is for internal maintenance. A lot of you also asked me, Thomas, can you please show something about how asset management integrates to the other modules inside D365? This is an older slide that I always use because I think it shows us, what does it mean when we have put the EAM product, our maintenance product, into our ERP system? Because then we are able to create a requisition or PO directly from a work order. When the PO is invoiced, we can see the total cost on our asset, on our work order, on the function location. With the warehouse module, inventory management module, then we can consume spare parts out of inventory. We can create approved spare part lists for our assets. And we can also choose to include the forecast on our work orders. That could be preventive work orders out in the future that could be included in your master plan so that it can trigger a purchase order if you don't have the spares that you need. For finance, asset management can help you control the financial dimensions. We have dimensions on both our locations and the assets. So if you install an asset, and we're going to talk about that today, on a different function location, then it can automatically update the finance dimensions from that location. Maybe you want to change the department or the cost center. With asset management, you can also create the maintenance asset from the fixed asset. So when you have created the fixed asset, you can create the maintenance asset directly from the fixed asset module. On the production side, if you create a link between the maintenance asset and the machine resource in production, then asset management will also create a capacity reservation when you schedule the work order inside asset management. So that the time the worker is working on the machine, the production planner can also see that inside the production module. If you have that link, then we can also update counters from the production orders. That could be quantity produced and hours posted on production orders. We're going to talk about those PMs or maintenance plans that are built on counters today. For the HR module, inside asset management, you can set up what skills certifications are required to do a certain job or a certain trade. And then asset management can validate against that in the HR module so that you are not able to schedule to a worker that don't have the right qualifications. And then finally, asset management is built on top of the project module. Like all other service and maintenance solutions I have seen inside Dynamics for the last many, many years. I think that we have a way more flexible control of the project module compared to what you can do in service management today, where you manually have to create a project to put on the service agreement or the service order. In asset management, we have a project setup where you can set up depending on the location, the type of work order, the type of asset, what project where you want to create the work order sub-project. So that also means that when you do consumption, we use project journals. We can validate against committed costs. When you set up cost prices, you do that on the categories and so on. So asset management will require a minimum setup of the project module. So built in, not bolted on. What has been now added into D365 is a full register of your assets. A lot more information that we were used to have on the fixed asset, way more information that we had on a service object. So inside asset management, we can open up the asset view that will show me a combination of our location and assets. It will show me the full tree structure. I really like that we can now see if it is a location or if it is an asset that I'm standing on. There's no limitations on how many sub-locations you want, and there's no limitations on how many sub-assets you want. So you can build this structure exactly as you want. But of course, you have to make a decision. Here, I am standing on my extruder line. I even added a picture of it. This could be just one asset, or should we have sub-asset so that I can see the cost on my blender, my DC drive, my motor, my gearbox, the metal detector, and so on. If you want to see the cost on that level, then of course we need to track the cost on that level. If we quickly look at the different processes that is covered by asset management, a lot of you have maybe seen these slides before, but inside asset management, we can handle the corrective maintenance, the breakdown maintenance. People can create a maintenance request for the maintenance department. The maintenance manager can have an overview on the workspace for our maintenance request management. And the maintenance manager can approve a request by creating the work order. When we have created the work order, there will be a link between the request and the work order, so that when the work order is closed, you can also set up that it should automatically close the request. Our philosophy when it was a Dynaway product was that everybody should be able to create a request. That means that it requires minimum information to create a request. But it also means that you are not able to put a budget on a request, do postings against a request, and so on, create a purchase requisition against the request. You can only do that when you have approved it by creating the work order. We're going to focus on our maintenance plans today. And inside asset management, we are supporting different types of maintenance, and I will go more into detail about that. Asset management is supporting the preventive, the calendar-based, the time-based maintenance, but also the predictive maintenance, where we can predict out in the future when we will reach a certain value based on counter values on the asset. When you have created those maintenance plans, then you can assign them to either a specific asset or a location that you want to create the work orders against. So the first thing you have to do is set up the maintenance plan. Then we can generate the work order proposal based on those plans. You do that by running the schedule maintenance plan or the schedule maintenance rounds. And that will generate the work order proposal, or as it is called inside asset management, the maintenance schedule. From the maintenance schedule, you can bundle lines and create work orders. You can have the overview. You can do adjustments before you create the work orders. I like to work with the maintenance schedule. I normally advise my customers to use the maintenance schedule. But if you don't see a value of having that overview, then of course you can set up on the maintenance plan, and when you are running the periodic job, that the system should just auto-generate the work orders. And then we end up with a preventive or predictive work order. The system is also supporting condition-based maintenance, but it is only supporting condition-based maintenance where we are reacting on a certain value, not on the aggregated value. But I will talk more about that when we look at it today. What you will do here for the condition-based is that you will create a maintenance plan. This maintenance plan will be, let me see if there was some comments here. I just want to be sure that you can all hear me. This maintenance plan will be set up to react on a certain counter value when it goes above or below, and then it can auto-generate the work orders. That counter value you could import using the data management data entity. There's one, I think it's called asset management, asset counter values, but we can also update it from the checklists. So if you go out and you have a calendar-based PM where you're doing some readings, and then you can take that information and you can use it to update your checklist, and then it could auto-create a work order based on the value that you put on your checklist. When we have created those different work orders, and then we need to execute it. And if you ask me, work order execution is what asset management is all about. We want to execute, work with the work orders that we have created based on our setup. So no matter what type of work order you are creating, and then we need to execute it. Inside asset management, you can set up a separate lifecycle model for each of your work order types. That means that you can have different life cycles for different types of work orders. Maybe you don't want to have an approval step on your preventive work order, but you would like to have an approval on a corrective work order. In my example here, I have the steps where we are creating the work order, then we are preparing it. A part of that preparation could be looking at the forecast, modifying the forecast, creating a requisition if we need a contractor, and scheduling the work. Schedule work can be done inside D365, where you can do a dispatch to a worker, where you are choosing the worker, or you can do an automatic scheduling, where asset management will try to find the most suited worker for the job. Today, I will show you the drag and drop planning board that we have put on top of D365, where you get a better overview if you are a planner to do the planning. But of course, we can still do the dispatch and automatic scheduling inside D365. When we have scheduled the work, then we are ready to execute it. When you are executing the work order, then you can print out a work order report. You can fill out the report, somebody can type it into the system. But of course, there is a huge value of adding mobility on top of asset management. Microsoft have a solution, the mobile, what is it called? The unified app. And then you can publish some mobile workspaces within D365, and you can use the mobile client from Microsoft. I am not focusing on that one today. To be honest, I don't have any experience with that and no information about that mobile client. And that's because we have our own mobile client that we are using at customers that want to have mobile execution of work order. And we see that more and more. People want to have all the information with them when they are standing with the machine. They want to be able to close the work order and go directly to the next one. When we have executed the work, then we are ready to close the work. When we close the work, the worker can add consumption, post hours, items, expenses against the work. He can update the feedback, notes, checklists, fault registration, downtime registrations, and so on. And then he can close the work order. Often there will be an extra step, maybe where you are closing it also financially. That could be the scenario where you have a contractor that did some work. We can close it because he has completed the work, but we cannot financially close it because we will not see an invoice for maybe a month or something like that. That was the introduction to asset management.